Ever thought to yourself, my build looks like absolute dog? Welcome to Destiny 2 Top 3 Builds, a series of mine where I put together 3 builds per class and element, to showcase the potent top picks for Guardians new and old. Today we look at the Stasis Hunter, which I know Stasis needs some love, but I'm trying to cover all bases off and on the meta. I'm not a Hunter main, so please don't look at the small things like stats, especially with changes coming up in the Edge of Fate. But regardless, let's dive into the 3 I've put together. Remember to like, sub, and ring that bell. Enjoy. Alright, let's get into the first build here. So what you're going to want to rock is the 4th Horseman. This weapon's rate of fire is increased significantly and fires full auto. Final blows auto-load ammo from reserves. Powerful targets fully reload the weapon, which is quite nice. Broadside. Each successive shot has more damage and more spread. And you don't really need the catalyst, but it's a nice cherry on top. Adds an additional round to the magazine and increases reload speed. 4th Horseman is great for dealing with champions and also taking out minor boss combatants. But if you're in a boss scenario, you could use something like Legend of Acarius, which is a really good pick, probably a top pick for this as well. But it depends on what situation you're in. I'm using 4th Horseman because I need a champion thing, and also because linear is weakened this season, and I'm rocking a weapon with strategist, which also helps with that class ability regen. But you can use whatever you like. And I should mention before I get into Mask of Bacchus that it is getting a little bit of a rework in Edge of Fate, but I'll leave it up on screen right now. It is getting changed around a little bit, going from surges to a little bit of a 3-tier system, and we'll have to see how it plays out. Not really sure if it's a nerf or a buff, but there is a buff on it that is going to allow it to be used with Arc. And I kept it in here because it is sort of a stasis exotic and always has been. But the fact that it's going to work with Arc now is also going to be a good option, and probably one that people are going to take. And I know this is a stasis video, so I'm focusing on that. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. So, Mask of Bacchus. While you have a stasis super equipped, your dodge becomes a longer range, faster moving shift that partially cloaks you during use. After shifting, your stasis and arc weapons deal increased damage for a short time. And like I said, in Edge of Fate, you can also use it with arc. And there's a secret synergy. It also works with Lord of Wolves if you wanted to use that as well. But that is totally up to you, but Lord of Wolves is a very good option too. So, let's get into the subclass here and what we want to use. Gambler's Dodge is what I'm using for this, just to get my melee ability back quicker, or instantly. You can use Marksman's if you want for damage scenarios. It's probably going to be really good with Acarius, but just for the purposes of this, I am using Gamblers. Withering Blade, Dustfield Grenade, and Grim Harvest. Defeating slow to frozen targets creates stasis shards. These shards grant melee energy when picked up by you or your allies, so you could almost get away with Gambler's Dodge if you wanted to. While Grim Harvest is equipped, picking up stasis shards grants stacks of frost armor. This is not only good for survivability, but also to get an extra fragment slot. Then we want to use Winter's Shroud. Dodging slows nearby targets. Slowing targets briefly increases your class ability regeneration, which is going to be huge with Bacchus. Now for our fragments. Whisper of Hedrons. This one's probably not necessary, but the main reason why I use it is because it helps with stability, which is pretty nice alongside 4th Horseman because it kicks like a mule. Dramatically increases weapon stability, weapon aim assist, weapon airborne effectiveness, mobility, resilience, and recovery after freezing a target with stasis. I should also mention in the Edge of Fate, mobility, resilience, and recovery are getting changed to weapons, health, and class ability. So this could even be more enticing to use in the Edge of Fate, but we'll have to see what they change with it, because we don't really know yet. Whisper of Refraction. Defeating slow to frozen targets grants you class ability energy, which is very good again. Impetus. Damaging targets with a stasis melee reloads your stow weapons and grants you a temporary boost to weapon ready speed, which also helps with whipping out the shotgun and taking down a target quickly, and then switching back to your main. I'm using Durance. Slow that you apply to targets lasts longer. For those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. This is nice just with your abilities, and also because slowing gives you your class ability energy back, so it gives you a little bit more leeway time. It's not required. It's nice. Plus the little stat bump there. And Chains. Defeating targets while you have frost armor has a chance to create a stasis shard. Just nice to keep that frost armor rolling because it does fall off pretty quickly. This could also be swapped out with something if you want, but that's what I'm using for the purposes of the video. So yeah, that's the subclass and the exotics and everything. Let's get into the stats. Now, in Edge of Fate, like I said, stuff is going to be changed. You're probably going to want to rock recovery more, which is going to be changing to class ability. Because, a little bonus, when you use your class ability on 200 stat in the Edge of Fate, you'll get an overshield. And you probably want to rock weapons with that, just so you can get that damage up to 30%. If you can either rock 200 weapons or a lot of recovery, or 200 recovery and on some weapons. Totally up to you. For some of the perks here, we want to run Stasis Siphon, Dynamo to get some super back when we're dodging near enemies, and Heavy Ammo Finder. Heavy-handed, Font of Vigor, and Font of Focus, just because I can get some higher stuff here. Now that I look at it, I could probably get away with getting rid of this grenade for something else, but that's totally up to you guys. Heavy-handed for orbs on those Stasis Shurikens. Your damage resist is whatever you want, and Font of Endurance. But you could probably run Charged Up or something if you wanted to, because Font of Endurance is going to become Health, which is probably not something people are going to want to rock anymore. So Charged Up or Resist Mods is probably going to be the way to go. Recuperation, Font of Agility, and Elemental Charge for getting armor charge back on those shards, which is going to be nice. And we also have Powerful Attraction, Font Restoration, and Time Dilation. Now, Powerful Attraction is not required. You could probably run Proximity Ward if you wanted to, but it's quite nice to collect nearby orbs when you use that class ability. So that's it for the build. Let's get into the video. Alright, I'm only going to be talking through a little bit of this one. So the goal for this build is to do this. As much as possible, anyway. So I'll let the gameplay ring out and speak for itself. I will talk to you guys momentarily. Alright, let's get into this build here. Now, you might see this at first glance and think, it's a little strange having these two mixed together. But at the end, you'll see why. For our main exotic weapon here, we want to be using Tessellation. Mainly to get our grenade energy back, but let me read its description and everything for people that don't know. This weapon, instrument topology, adapts its damage type to match your equipped grenade. Final blows grant grenade energy. Press consume your grenade to load a large projectile-shaped language that generates an elemental explosion on impact. And if you have the catalyst, targets near the blast of property irreducible are afflicted, burn, cursed with an elemental effect matching your equipped grenade's damage type. And you will see this in the gameplay, but Tessellation is really fun to play around with in grenade builds. While this isn't a purely grenade build, it's kind of rounded out for all your abilities, really. Because we're pairing this with Mask of Fealty. Withering Blade hits and bounces create a small stasis crystal and refund a portion of melee energy. Using Withering Blade to shatter crystals of frozen targets releases a spread of Withering Blades. This is the newest stasis exotic, and it is quite good in certain builds. And I think with all these things that I'm going to show you in the subclass, it pairs really well together. So your main goal is to always have your grenade up, always have your dodge up, and your melees with null factor are also enhanced. So each thing here does something unique, provides a pretty fun play loop. So you want to be rocking Gambler's Dodge just like the rest of the builds. Getting your melee back is huge, and I know Null Factor kind of gives you melee energy back anyway, so if you wanted to switch, you could, but that's totally up to you. And Withering Blade, obviously, and Glacier Grenade, because we're going to be shatter diving. Activate while midair to quickly descend and shatter nearby targets on impact. Also works with the grenades. And it's binded to X for me, but it could be something different for you. And your Glacier Grenade adds a stasis crystal and changes the formation. Now, it doesn't really describe very well what it actually does. So instead of 5 crystals in a horizontal line, it is in a circular pattern. There's 6 of them, of the big ones, and 1 small one in the middle, I believe. So your main goal is to throw your Glacier Grenade, use your Shatter Dive, and then use your Withering Blades whenever you want to also freeze everything in your path. And just freezing, slowing, shattering. That's the main goal. And you'll get your grenade energy back a lot quicker with Tessellation. And with our aspects, or with our fragments here, sorry, we will be getting our class ability back quicker. So, we want to rock Whisper of Fissures. Increases the damage and size of the burst of stasis when you destroy stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. Huge with Shatter Dive. And this is also huge with it. Shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. Shattering additional stasis crystals increases the duration of this benefit. Whisper of Refraction. Defeating slow to frozen targets grants you class ability energy. And that's huge with Tessellation because it will apply stasis debuffs and work in the favor of getting your class ability back too. So it's kind of doing both, which is quite nice. You can kind of rock whatever you want in the fourth one. I just put slow that you apply, or Whisper of Durance, sorry. Slow that you apply to targets lasts longer. For those abilities that linger, the duration will also increase. Now you're really only slowing with your Withering Blades. To pair it with the other stuff here, it kind of helps, at least for Refraction. So yeah, that's the build there. And when it comes to stats, again, stuff is changing in the Edge of Fate. I would lean more into probably Grenade. Yeah, for your Grenade ability regen. We'll move on to the mods. You want to rock Ashes to Assets, Stasis Siphon, Heavy Ammo Finder, Firepower, Impact Induction, Font of Focus. And you want to rock Impact Induction because your Withering Blades will give you grenade energy back. And Font of Focus is there because I'm low. Melee damage resist, mostly because you're diving in with Shatter Dive. Charged out Font of Endurance, just because of the way my class is set up here. Font of Agility, Absolution, Stasis Weapon Surge. Proximity Ward, Font of Restoration, Time Dilation. Now you could probably do Powerful Attraction if you want to do too, but that's totally up to you. Again, some things can be swapped out. But yeah, that's it for the build. Let's get into the gameplay. Alright folks, for the last build here, we're going to rock Wicked Implement with Renewal Grasp. And I know, you guys are probably thinking, Stasis is still dead, blah 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 blah. Hear me out here, I'm going to put it up on screen now. Wicked Implement is getting a buff in Edge of Fate. It is being turned into a rapid fire frame. And that is going to be huge, because you're going to be able to freeze things quicker, and create those headstone shards, or crystals, sorry, more often. It's just going to make the weapon feel much nicer. So, for the weapon itself, rapidly landing precision hits causes targets to become slowed, which is one of the only weapons in the game that has a chill clip type of effect on a primary. It's actually the only weapon, I should say. While creeping attrition is active, destroying stasis crystals or landing precision final blows creates a stasis shard. The stasis shard returns to you, and collecting stasis shards refills the magazine. And when you get the catalyst, it amps it up to 11 headstone. Precision final blows spawn a stasis crystal at the victim's location. Collecting stasis shards gradually overflows the magazine, and there's a hidden synergy here. It's not only Wicked Implement's special shard that does this, it's your stasis shards in general. So when we build into that, you're going to have to reload basically never. So it is very, very nice. It's very, very fun. And we mix this with Renewal Grasp to make your dust field grenades have a much larger effect radius. Allies inside the dust field gain frost armor, and targets inside the area deal reduced damage. Great for survivability, great to give your teammates some more DR, or damage resistance. And your dust grenades are basically just going to keep the battlefield fully controlled, fully locked down. Let's get into the subclass here. You're going to want to rock Gambler's Dodge, but if you want to rock Marksman's, it's not a big deal either. Personal preference, really. And Dustfield Grenades. That is the key point of the build right there with renewals. And Grim Harvest. Defeating slow to frozen targets creates stasis shards. These shards grant melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. While Grim Harvest is equipped, picking up stasis shards grants stacks of frost armor. This is going to be huge for survivability, and also giving your teammates more melee energy, and with renewals, giving them damage resistance and frost armor. So it's pretty good. And to enhance the Glacier Grenade even more, we're using Touch of Winter. Dustfield Grenade increases slow field size and creates a small stasis crystal on impact. So not only does this increase the size, but so does renewals, to make a massive field that is almost the size of a Titan bubble, if you know the size of that. And it is very, very good in most situations. So for our fragments here, we want to be using Whisper of Conduction. Now I know some people like to go and pick up your stasis shards. That's cringe. Use this. Don't have to think about it. Very good. And you also get a couple stat bumps. Whisper of Rending, to make it easy to break those crystals with Wicked Implement. Whisper of Torment, they give you grenade energy each time you take damage, and having frost armor increases the amount of energy gained. And when we pair it with this, shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. Shattering additional stasis crystals increases their duration of this benefit. So you got two fragments here that are going back into your grenade, and it is very, very nice. And for this last one here, slow that you apply to targets lasts longer. For those abilities that linger, the duration will also increase. Could go with something else here if you wanted to, even Whisper Rending too, but I think it just helps the easy use and the general feel of the build. So yeah, that sums it up for that, and you can kind of use whatever you want. I'm using these two to provide myself with some champion capability. And when we get into the stats, you're going to want to build into Grenade as much as you can. Getting that 200 Grenade stat in Edge of Fate is going to be huge, giving you more grenade damage and obviously the regen. So it's going to be quite nice. While Dustfield doesn't provide you with that much killing potential, at least you'll get the regen. And probably going to want to rock weapons with that as well. But it's up to you. As far as mods go, typically you just want to do whatever is right for the build, but this is what I'm using. Stasis Siphon, Fauna Wisdom, Heavy Ammo Finder. On your renewals, rock Impact Induction, Heavy Handed, and Font of Vigor. Reason being, Impact Induction, causing damage with a powered melee attack, reduces your grenade cooldown, which is very nice. And when you get kills with that melee, you will create Orbs of Power. And rocking Vigor just so I can get my strength back quicker. Or my strength higher, sorry. So yeah, and obviously rock whatever resistance you want to use. Probably not a bad idea to rock sniper resistance so you don't take extra damage from snipers because they hit like a truck. And recuperation, font of agility, and elemental charge. Now, elemental charge is kind of key here because when you get your shards, it is one of the quickest ways to get elemental charge because you're generating so many. I only say that because I'm a Titan main and I use a lot of stasis crystal shattering type of effects to give me my shards, but this will also generate a nice few shards with this build as well. And in Edge of Fate, mobility is going to be turning to weapons, so this should help with the damage of Wicked Implement. You could also do Weapon Surge if you wanted to as well. Rock Proximity Ward, Font of Restoration, and Time Dilation. You could do Reaper if you wanted to as well, or Distribution, or what have you. It is totally up to you. And that concludes it for this. Let's get into the last bit of gameplay. Alright guys, that does it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know Stasis Hunter isn't exactly hot or anything. Stasis in general is not that hot. And I know there's going to be a few nerfs here and there in Edge of Fate. But I still think Stasis could be quite a fun class to use, because there are some artifact mods coming up to help it out as well. But if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, and sub. And I will talk to you in the next one. Bye bye now.